was enrolled at a private school in Brandenburg, Germany at the age of 10. On weekends, I would stay with my parents in my apartment, but during the school week, I would board in the dormitory. Spending 5 nights a week at a German boarding school is much less creepy than it sounds. In fact, we would usually sneak around the halls at night. Nothing really faced us. There was a long, narrow room we dubbed the PlayStation Room, with a dozen PlayStation consoles inside. The door was frequently unlocked, and so we would often visit, there were 6 of us, and just sit around, playing these games late at night. I had been in Germany for 5 months when my parents had to return home for a funeral. For 2 weeks they left me in care of my aunt and grown-up cousin, who lived in Nauen, a nearby town. Their apartment was small and quite far away, so I ended up spending most of my nights at school for those 2 weeks. On Saturdays, there were only 2 other students in our dormitory by night. One of them was a much older boy with whom I never saw eye to eye. The other was his mentally handicapped twin. I'll call him K. The first Saturday night was boring without my friends, and I found that I couldn't sleep. I was missing my parents a lot, despite being a fairly independent 10-year-old. So on the second Saturday, I decided to take a trip to the PlayStation Room. I climbed out of my bed, but Kay heard my movements and decided to get up too. Feeling guilty, I explained where I was going, and he asked if he could come as well. Kay had a very problematic speech impediment and spat a lot when he talked. Conversation was always difficult. I agreed, hoping to calm him a little, and so we both made our way down the north end stairwell onto the second floor. I played a wrestling game for about 20 minutes. Kay mashed a controller happily, convinced he was winning. After a few matches, I lost against the computer and Kay started cheering very loudly. I tried to get him to stop, but Kay just laughed it off. Realizing that we might be caught, I quickly launched out of my seat and ran, full tilt, back up to the dorm. I felt guilty for leaving Kay, but was pretty confident that he wouldn't be punished on account of his handicap. When the dormitory door opened again, I feigned sleep. I heard 2 sets of footsteps enter. One of them was clearly Kay, the other sounded much lighter and softer. I presumed it to be a teacher. Straining my ears, I heard Kay saying, "I love you," over and over. He would always say this to teachers, especially when he was in trouble. When the other person responded, I heard a teeny, high-pitched voice saying, "He's not sleeping." I immediately got chills. The voice was totally unfamiliar, and there weren't many faculty members who I didn't know. I heard Kay slip back into bed, but the light footsteps never retreated. That night, I felt a constant presence in Kay's corner of the dorm. There was a strange kind of breathing, a lot like hospital apparatus, which continued for what felt like several hours. I barely slept, sweating through my pajamas, duvet, and sheets. I've never been more terrified. The following morning I went swimming with Kay, his brother, and a few teachers. I met Kay in the shower afterwards and told him I was sorry. I also asked him if he was caught by a teacher last night. He shook his head and told me that the stickman was trying to rest and needed his room, or something to that effect, and also that we should stop playing where the stickman is staying. I should stress that Kay's impediment made this hard to understand, but I'm fairly sure it's what he said. After we were dressed, I cornered Kay and tried to question him further, unsatisfied with the story he had given in the showers. We talked for a few more minutes, but as always, conversation with Kay was a trial. He eventually pulled a notepad from his bag and handed it to me. I leafed through it. The whole book was full of doodlings, all fairly innocuous, save for one page, where a tall, stick-like figure was drawn. I noted that it was missing its arms. Kay looked at me and nodded. I told all of my dorm mates as soon as I could, and thankfully they believed me. After that, we never once snuck out at night again.